I'm Mark.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Patrick.
Welcome to the Tesla Life, and tonight we're going to talk a little bit about electrifying everything. Roll the intro. Here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about electrifying everything, and our friend Patrick, luckily, has actually written a blog on this. So, Patrick, take it away. What have you come up with?
Yeah, so this came up actually a discussion that I had on Casey's show. So it's nice that it started there. I wrote a blog about it. Now we're talking about it here. It's gone full circle. I love
All
this.
right.
So it's on my blog, carswithcords.net, and it's titled "You Cannot Conserve Your Way to Net Zero." So it started with the concept, common environmental saying, reduce, reuse, recycle. Makes sense, right? Well, how much do you reduce? Okay, if you have a gas car, should you just drive less or maybe switch to a hybrid that gets better gas mileage? You're still using gas. You're still supporting that whole system, that infrastructure, all the spilling and environmental damage that causes. Instead, I don't want to reduce, I want to replace. I don't want to go to where I'm conserving and getting by on minimal energy. I want an energy abundant future, but one that's not dependent on fossil fuels. I want to use an EV and drive and have fun. Yeah, exactly, baby. You got it. And have that be fueled by solar power, renewable energy. And it's the same thing if you think about like a furnace. Okay, you can turn your furnace down a few degrees in the winter and you won't burn as much methane. But what's better is you just get a heat pump and you run that from electricity and you keep the house nice and warm and comfortable. Not, I'm curled up with a blanket and three sweaters and trying to conserve. Because you're still going to be burning gas in that case. You're just going to be using a little bit less. Why not replace the whole system? So I was just thinking about how it's really a phase shift. We need to change the way we do things, not just try to do them a little more optimally.
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of people think about the conserving
Mm-hmm.
as a way that they're going to save a little money, and that's correct. You can save a little bit money by conserving your resources and not using them the way that you've used them all to this point. But
Sure.
as if you want to save a good deal of money, you're going to be uncomfortable. Like when it comes
Mm-hmm.
right down to it, you can definitely turn your thermostat down to a point where you're still not freezing the pipes in your house, but you're uncomfortable, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
short sleeve weather in your house either. So there is this thought that conserving is the way to go, but you're never going to get to the goal that you really would like, which would be, of course, to remove that cost altogether and still be comfortable in your own home in the middle of winter. So
Right.
it's something that you really don't think about that often. Now, of course, there are other things. You've got to pick and choose. Based on being fiscally responsible as
Mm-hmm.
to replacing systems. But you could also look at it when a system is about to be replaced because if it's old, maybe that's the time that you've done your homework, you've prepared for this, and you can now say, you know what? Instead of just getting a replacement gas furnace, now I'm looking at the heat pump because one of the main components that burns energy in my house is
Mm-hmm.
about to go. And I can see that switching at this point makes fiscal sense because I am going to have an expenditure regardless. It's just that I can now move to a different medium and have part of my system switched over for that renewability that I would ultimately like to get to. It's just that you may not be able to get to it all at the same time. It may be in stages.
Right. Yeah. And as long as you have a plan and you're taking action and doing it with that's fine. It's just the nice thing about once you have moved to electricity, as Casey says, electrify all the things. And once you've done that, then electricity, the prices are so much more stable. If you look at gas prices, every summer they're up, every winter they're down, they're all over the place. And that just isn't the case with electricity. And if electricity gets too out of line, you can put on solar panels. And then there's a large upfront cost for that, but there's incentives for it and financing. And sometimes you can do the financing in such a way that what you would have been paying in bills, you're now just paying to pay off your loan. And so once the loan's paid off, it's gravy after that. So
yeah,
there's lots of options.
it's not to suggest that conserving is useless. It's a useful tool in the tool chest, but if you only use that tool, you're not going to do what you want to do. A good example is the company that put solar on this house. They do it a different way than the competition was doing at the time. Rather than just saying, "Oh, you need 20 kilowatts of solar. Here you go, $150,000."
That's a big system. That'd be spendy. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, "Hey, how about we change all the light bulbs out for LEDs? Okay, and let's add some insulation. Okay, let's add the space blanket solar, space age stuff. I don't know what it's called, but NASA uses it, and it's not new tech. It's 1970 stuff. And then next month, let's see what the bill is, and let's calibrate for that. And so now, instead of putting a 20 kilowatt system on, you put an 8 kilowatt system on. And so you didn't just stop at conserving and freezing in the wintertime. But now with the 8 kilowatts, you don't need as big of a heat pump. You don't need as big of a water heater. All these things, they all work together. And
right. Yeah, that's being efficient, not self-deprecating or self-depriving or whatever the right phrase would be. Yes. Yeah, and I'm all for efficiency.
Yeah, and it makes sense completely, Casey, because what you're doing is if you do nothing on the efficiency side of things, you don't get in that extra installation, you don't switch to LEDs, you don't fix those drafty windows, then of course getting a bigger system in place and just blowing it outside anyways through those existing issues doesn't make a lot of sense. You're just burning money for no reason, and it's not making you any more comfortable. It's just the status quo and putting in a huge investment to heat the outside of your house in that particular case.
Yeah, and none of that worked on my house because they had actually already sold this place up before I bought it. So there were no more low-hanging fruit. But
here in Oregon, we have the Energy Trust of Oregon, and it's a really cool program. I wish more places did this. They will come out and do an energy audit at your house, and they do the blower door tests, and they will recommend all the services that you need. They give you new shower heads and these filters for your faucets that will aerate the water so you can use less water. They'll give you LED bulbs for free. And if your ducting needs work, they recommend contractors that are approved and that qualify for the state incentives. It's a really cool program.
Yeah, so as Patrick's article has mentioned, you need to put a plan into place for your life as to what works for you and start looking at those different segments. There's the transportation segment. There, of course, is the home segment that you will can have a heat pump, for example. You can have solar supplying it. You have the ability to electrify your garden tools, your lawnmower, your snow blower, all these things switching from the fossil fuel over to the electric as you have the capacity to do so, both financially and, of course, the amount of electricity that you're going to be using. Those things, it's not an overnight change, but with someone with an existing home, those are things that you can start to plan for, because we all know that our furnaces, our other appliances, they all get replaced within 10 to 20 years, for example. It depends on the use of those items, but they all can be switched over eventually. And that's something that pushing for electricity on all these items is going to benefit you and your family in the long run.
And some folks might be looking at battery backup for their house and saying, "Oh, well, I've got a gas generator. It's not worth the expense, blah, blah, blah." Are you keeping up with the maintenance on that gas generator? How much is it costing you every month, every quarter, every year? And does it still work?
Maybe not.
if you haven't started that thing in half a year, I'd suggest you get out there and start it. Just do it twice a year. You got to be able to make sure that is going to be there when you need it in an emergency.
Or better yet, buy home batteries and solar and then scrap it or sell it.
Well, that's if you find it doesn't work. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, if you look at the maintenance costs and then whatever tax incentives you get and local incentives, it might be worth junking it as a new unit. But if it still works, you can probably sell it used to somebody who does want that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Very good. Very good. So, connect with Patrick's other writings on Cars with Cords. He does put them up periodically, and you can certainly connect with his writings anytime you wish, right off of his website, right there.
Cool. Thanks, Mark.
With that, I think we'll wrap it up on this Tesla Lights Express, and we'll be back to you shortly next week. So please press that subscribe, press that thumbs up, and click the bell. And Casey's got fireworks going on. That's great. That's just
nice finale fireworks.
Right on cue. Those are finale fireworks, obviously. So with that, we will catch you again next time. And from myself, from Patrick, from Casey, we wish you a good evening, good night, good afternoon, whenever you're watching.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Stay positive, test negative.